Shalom, shalom. This week's Torah portion, Bamidbar, comes to us in the week of the new moon at the start of the third month on the biblical calendar, and it is the week before Shavuot, depending on how you count. If you count 7 weeks after the Passover, the biblical Passover, not the fake church Passover, from Pesach to Shavuot, 7 weeks and 1 day. Or if you count the days, then you use a Greek word called Pentecost, which means 50 days. Then you count the days. This Torah portion comes for this week. It's called Parashat Bamidbar. Midbar means the desert. Normally translated Ba, Midbar, Ba means in the desert or in the wilderness, if you like. It's the book of Numbers, and I want to say the fascinating book of Numbers. It's an absolutely fascinating book to read, and I want to encourage you to take time. Don't gawk at the numbers. In the numbers as well. It's a good opportunity in this week to stop and reflect on the meaning of the name Shavuot and Pentecost. It is the day Shavuot on which the first edition of the Ten Commandments were given to Moses. And the Ten Commandments is Adonai's ketubah, his wedding contract with the nation of Israel. And this day, Shavuot, Pentecost, is also the day in the book of the Acts of the Disciples or Apostles, in Acts 2, verse 1 to 4, the Holy Spirit was poured out also on Shavuot, also on Pentecost. So we have to remember, though, that when we read that these events from the book of Numbers that we're going to talk about, it colors the reading of the entire book, and it colors the meaning of Shavuot or Pentecost. You may have heard that the Psalms are also divided into five sub-books, each sub-book corresponding to a Torah book. Now, regarding the book of Numbers, Psalm 90, which was written by Moses, composed by Moses, Psalm 90 to Psalm 106, those psalms are mirroring the book of Numbers. Let's have a quick look at Psalm 90. As I said, it's composed by Moses, and Moses starts the Psalm 90, is not Adam coming from the dust, but Adam going back into the dust, because we are all mortal men, we don't live forever. Back into the dust. All creation, wonderful, mankind, sin fell from grace, we're going back to the dust out of which we were made. Yes, Moses emphasized how insignificant mankind is in Psalm 90 without or within Elohim's great creation. Moses sang there, teach us to number our days. And he does this, and we read this in a period where we're counting the Omer. Counting the Omer is from Pesach, counting 50 days up to Pentecost or up to Shavuot. And Moses says, if you count the days, then you will also carpe diem, you will seize the moment, because every day that's passing is never going back. I always think of a Moody Blues song called 22,000 Days and 22,000 Nights. It ain't a lot, but it's all we got. And then they say, let's start the show in 22,000 ways. Back to the Bible. The Hebrew word for Moses that Moses used for counting our days is limunah, lamet mem nun vav tav, and mona without the li prefix indicate that we should count up, because the li actually indicates direction, the letter lamed, and it points up to heaven, so we count up, like the Bible instruction for counting the Omer is also to count up, not to count down. So in Psalm 90 then concludes with a prayer request that Adonai will establish our works to last longer than what our bodies will last. He was effectively praying for our works to become our treasure in heaven. And that is how Yeshua said the same concept in Matthew 6 verse 19 to 21 and in Matthew 7 verse 7 to 11. To seek a treasure in heaven, Moses are praying for that in the last verses of Psalm 90. And then Psalm 106, that concludes the Psalms that correspond to the book of Numbers. That Psalm 106 concludes that Adonai will always be faithful to Israel, as Israel is his chosen people, his bride. And I say it again, you know, we all know Israel is the chosen nation. Why are they chosen? My wife is my chosen person. Your wife or your husband is your chosen person. Israel is the bride of God. Israel is the bride of the Lamb. It is not the church. Don't listen to false teachings. Read your Bible, then it will become clear to you. If we look a little bit at some elements of a Pardes study on these first chapters of the book of Numbers, we see that Israel is still encamped at the foot of Mount Sinai. It is now more than 40 days after the Passover when the book opens. And the 40th day, of course, is important. That's Ascension Day. Yeshua on the 40th day ascended to heaven from the Mount of Olives, and he will return there to the Mount of Olives. And it is a little longer that Israel have been en route to the promised land from Egypt, a little bit longer than 1 year that they've been on the road. And the book then opens with Adonai's instruction to Moses to count the nation. And that's why the book is called Numbers. Bamidbar in Hebrew, Numbers in every other translation in other languages. Adonai instructed Moses to count the men of ages suitable to be deployed in a war. And maybe some just background here. Mount Sinai is also named in the Bible as Mount Horeb, or Choreb, if I pronounce the Hebrew correct. And Choreb in Hebrew also means a sword, a weapon, a sword. So Adonai's Devarim, his words, are like a sword that cuts between the flesh and the spirit. And in the book of Revelation, chapter 1, verse 12 to 16, John witnessed that Yeshua's sword is in his words. He says, I saw a sword coming out of his mouth. What he means is really sharp cutting words. And so then we learn from this that wilderness experiences not only taught Israel how to battle against the enemy, but it also applies to us. And in the gospel portion associated with this, we learn of Yeshua's wilderness experience and how he used the Torah, the book of Deuteronomy specifically, as an answer, as his sword to defeat the enemy with. So beware of teachers who say that the Torah is done away with. What they're doing is they're disarming you before the battle. They're taking your sword away so that you are defenseless in front of the enemy. Beware of those teachers. They're not your friend. They are enemy agents. Even if they don't know it, they are. Adonai's instruction is perplexing, to say the least, as censuses or the counting of people is not condoned in the Torah in general. So in this case, the people had to pay penance of half a shekel per person, like an admission of guilt fine for being counted. And the rabbinical interpretation is that there's no blessing on anything that is counted, measured, or weighed. Counting, of course, only men older than 20 years who are fit for battle from only 11 of the 12 tribes, that yielded a number of 603,550 potential soldiers. This number excludes the Levites, who were 22,000, although counted in a different manner. In the count of the Levites, it's babies from newborn babies up to the age of 50. It's so different. But if we look at this number of over 603,000 young men, and then you consider each one of them probably have a wife and each one of them probably have 2 children, then we can conclude that Israel in the wilderness were more than 3 million people, probably more than 3.5 million people, when you add the women and the children and the old. The initial census of the tribal numbers were then repeated in the order of the tribes, just a chapter later. Moses wrote the duties of the Levites in between those 2 sets of numbers. And that's quite interesting. You have Numbers 1, you have this column of numbers of the count by tribe, how many potential soldiers there are on each tribe, and it totals to 603,000. Then he has the short passage about the duties of the Levites, and then he repeats all the numbers by tribe to arrange the seder, the order in which the Israel will move tribe by tribe. This raises 2 questions really. Why is the duties of the Levites like jam in a sandwich between all these tribal numbers? And the answer, I believe, is that the Levites and the Levitical duties in the tabernacle should stick all the tribes together in service to Adonai. But the Levites were also an insurance policy, if you like, a lightning rod, because in the camp, the tabernacle was in the middle, the Levites were all around the tabernacle, and they served to protect that no stray person would enter into the tabernacle and cause calamity for himself by doing so, by desecrating the tabernacle. So the Levites also protected the tribes from the wrath of Adonai. And then the question is, okay, what Moses does then after the second table of numbers by tribe to determine the order of the camp, Moses then writes down the count of the Levites. So you have the actual count, then you have the duties of the Levites, then you have the order that stipulates tribes by numbers again, and only then we read about the counting of the Levites. So why are the duties on even before they are counted? Well, the passage in Leviticus 1 verse 47 to 54, I wrote Leviticus in my notes. That's a mistake. It is in Numbers 1 verse 47 to 54. That's the duties of the Levites. Jam in the sandwich between the tribal numbers. And the duties, actually, when you look at it, it's an executive summary of the duties. The daily work duty, if you like, then is listed after the second table of numbers. I'm sure you also remember that the priests were from the descendants of Levi, but the priests were not counted in the Levitical count. The priests were only descendants from Aaron, And even though Aaron is in the tribe of Levi, he's excluded from the Levitical count. Culturally, for Jews, counting is very difficult, not only because of this Torah instruction not to be counted or not to count people. And the reason why is because the outcome of the battle is not in the number of the soldiers. But culturally or historically, the Nazis were numbering the Jews to dehumanize them. You would have seen photos of Holocaust survivors with their tattooed numbers on them. And historically, every great anti-Semite, every hater of the Jewish people were making lists and numbering him. Stalin did the same. Even in the book of Esther, Haman, he did the same. And through history, that has always happened. And hence, the Jewish resistance to be counted is not only from the Torah, but it's also from history. It seems to me that Gentiles, though, do not have the same ingrained resistance against being a number. I know we have identity numbers, passport numbers, bank account numbers, cell phone numbers. We are just a collection of numbers. I stand to be corrected, but as far as I know, in the Israeli Defense Force, people are called up not by a force number, a military number. No, they're called up by their name and their surname and their address. The numbers denies our humanity. Of interest is the Hebrew words that are translated to count or to census, and it's not the same word, and the meaning is also different, although the translation carries similar message. The first use in the book of Numbers, chapter 1, verse 2, is the word Su. It is Shin Aleph Vav. It's translated as a head count in my TLV Bible. But the word actually means to lift up the heads of the community. Su, lift up the heads. And the second use in the same verse, Numbers 1, verse 2, is the word Galgalot, Gimel Lamet, Gimel Lamet Tav. And that means skull. And you are familiar with this word because Galgalot, you can hear, is the same root as Golgotha, just pronounced a little bit different with the emphasis different. Galgalot means the skull. And in other words, the instruction is count every skull. Count the skulls, not the people, count the skulls. I spoke about Psalm 90. In Psalm 90 verse 12, Moses used the word Mona for counting, and again another word when he says count your days, remember? I believe it's safe to say that Adonai didn't really want to count Israel because, nobody was missing, nor did the size of the army that Moses could deploy in the battlefield, because Adonai Sevaot is the one who determines the outcome of the battle. Every battle determined by him in his great plan, and not by the number of soldiers, and not by the weaponry. And the Bible's full of examples where the size of the army doesn't matter, and the military equipment, the weaponry, also doesn't really determine the outcome of the battle. Only Adonai Sevaot, the Hebrew title Sevaot means the commander of the heavenly armies. And so here in the book of Numbers, every person was counted individually by name, because each and every person had a God-given calling on his life or her life. And we should refer to a prayer from Ecclesiastes 3 verse 9 to 11 in this regard. I'm not going to go there for the sake of time. The tribe of Levi was counted separately because they would not serve in war. Their in their case, the males older than 1 month old were counted, and they amounted to exactly 22,000. As Adonai took the tribe of Levi in the place of the firstborn children of Israel. And I should explain this. Remember the 10th plague in Egypt, the night of the plague, which was Pesach. God said that he personally will stand guard over every house who had the blood on the lintel and the passage to the door, and he would not allow the destroyer to enter that house. And by doing that, he protected the firstborn, so the firstborn became his property. And then he said he'll take the Levites in exchange for the firstborn. And so it was done. The firstborn belongs to Adonai. There were 273 more firstborns in Israel than there were Levites, so those had to be redeemed at a cost of 5 shekels per person, and so that they can live normal lives, that they don't belong to Adonai. Say, now there's an interesting fact written here that generally people don't understand in the Torah. The Torah subscribes higher spiritual value to women than to men. And we read this in this verses, Numbers 3, verse 11 to 13, where the firstborns are first from the womb of the mother, and not necessarily the first child of the father. Firstborns are special. The firstborn of the father's first son, he inherits a double portion of the physical things, property. But the firstborn of the mother belongs to Adonai because he opened the womb. Rachamim in Hebrew, it's the holy place of protection for the unborn child, and therefore the firstborn belongs to, first out of the womb belongs to Adonai, not the first of the father necessarily. And but from this we deduct that the spiritual value of women is higher than men. The physical value of a man is higher than that of a woman. So it's important to know that don't let people teach you rubbish about what the Torah says about women. Women are valued as spiritual treasure according to the Torah. Adonai then arranged the camp order north, east, south, and west, and he also set the order for moving the camp. And then in preparation for relocating the tabernacle, the Aaronic priest had to wrap up all the holy articles with porpoise or dolphin skins. There's some interesting debate on what it actually was. And the descendants of Korah ben Levi, they had to carry it all. And that's all I'm going to say about this week's Torah portion. The book of Numbers is absolutely fascinating, and I hope that you will join me on this journey. Until next week, I pray that Adonai Eloheinu will bless you and keep you, that he will shine his face upon you and be gracious to you. I pray that he will lift his countenance, his provision upon you, and that he will give you shalom. Shalom means he'll make you complete and he will give you peace. Shalom, shalom.